Greetings and thank you for being with us on You and Your Money. I'm Bryan. This evening we're focusing on investments. A few weeks ago, the entire investment world was focusing on Nvidia's results. At the time, I expressed how nonsensical it was to pin future performance on this one company. We are back in the same situation with all eyes tuned on the American election results. And joining me this evening is David Shapiro. David is Chief Global Equity Strategist at Sasfin Wealth. David, all over the place, the betting, some betting shops are talking about Harris, some about Trump. But just paint something of either one getting in. What is likely to happen in the next week to 10 days? Is there going to be market reaction?
I think, Bryan, I think relief. There are worries about Trump. There are worries about his tariff claims because he wants to put tariffs on everything. If you heard an interview with him, he said he loves the word. It's the best word in the English dictionary. The problem with tariffs, and may I explain, is that you, the consumer, will pay for it because he will impose tariffs on anything that's imported. And you have to understand this, So everything that's imported will have a tariff on. And his idea is that in the long run, people will then say, we've got to manufacture in America. But that takes time. You don't just, factories don't pop up overnight. So there are concerns that tariffs will increase costs to the consumer, inflation, therefore will push rates up, not down. So those are the kind of issues, whereas Kamala's much more evenly balanced than Trump, So we're fighting with their different economic policies, none of which, or neither of which, is very clearly articulated. So I think, Bryan, 10 days' time, we'll be talking about Nvidia again, which incidentally is now going to be included in the Dow.
Yes, because I see that Intel came out.
Intel comes out, Nvidia goes in as well. So
David, I know you've got a glass of water, not a crystal ball, but very simply, Trump gets in. What can we expect in the next few days?
Yeah, I think markets will go up either way.
Either way, do you think? Do you think the relief about now we've got it? But it's still going to take a few days because if you think about it, California only stops voting at 4 o'clock in our time, and therefore we probably won't get any answers till about.
And then they're going to be the contest, contesting the vote. We want to recount in Georgia. We want to recount in Wisconsin, and so on. So I think this might drag out for a couple of more days. But anyway, I've never seen an election fought like this, with two sides really opposed to each other in a way that's nasty. A lot of vindictiveness, a lot of hatred,
well, you don't
scorn.
You don't hear too much about what their policies are. No. You just hear about the pointy finger. So, David?
Yeah, that's interesting because my daughter in Boston, she says this is a vote about who you want to vote against. So you're voting for Kamala because you want anti-Trump. You vote for Trump because you don't want Kamala. You don't want the woke Democrats or whatever it is. I must say that neither candidate has a huge amount of support. Believing that these are the people that should be running the U.S.
Yeah. Okay, so let's just talk about the dollar. Yes. We've seen the dollar weaken. The election results. Any impact on the dollar? Because I'm more interested in the trajectory of the rand.
Yeah,
because of dollar weakness, rand strengthens. Dollar strength, rand weakens.
We might see a little bit of strength in the rand if the dollar does weaken. That will be if Kamala gets in. But Bryan, longer term, America is coming out of the last couple of years, which have been difficult years, call it the post-COVID years, have been difficult years. I think they're going to come out much stronger. We saw the GDP numbers, their growth numbers last week. It's still a very robust economy. It's still an economy that is entrepreneurial, that has the biggest companies. So over time, I think their growth versus the rest of the world is going to attract more money in. Not because of the level of interest rates, rather because of the growth prospect. And I think that's going to elevate the dollar again and perhaps weaken the rand as a consequence.
So, David, you think the rand and the projections and predictions of the rand going down to 16 are a little bit?
I think a little stretched. Yeah, it might hit 17. We've already hit that because there'll be knee-jerk reactions and traders trade. They trade with big money. It can get it down there, but I think given time, I expect the dollar to, exert its strength again and improve.
And David, any truth? I know in America you don't have a CCMA. You can fire if you don't do the job. But Trump has said if he gets in and Powell doesn't reduce interest rates, he's firing him.
Yeah, he can do what he likes.
But does he have the power, or does it have to?
No, it's re-election, which is 2026, I think.
Okay.
I think it's that far out. I think because he's only been re-elected. But I think that's a worry, when you start to interfere with the Fed, that's the independence of the Fed. That is a worry. I think it's a big worry that he wants to stick his nose into every department. So there are concerns about him as a president. Whether he's fit to have the nuclear buttons at his fingertips.
And then, David, last week you had in the UK, you had the autumn budget. Yeah. Any impact at all on South Africa in terms of,
Not really.
No,
it's really on UK growth. But, Bryan, UK hasn't been... UK is almost a carbon copy of us if you look at the FTSE. If you look at the UK one, the FTSE 100. It's made up of banks. It's made up of commodity companies, of no modern businesses. They're very... it's got the odd... pharmaceutical business, but there's nothing really attractive about the UK company. So the UK's also got to look inwards and also got a lot to do, to reproject itself. Even Europe's floundering, but you've got the luxury companies there, you've got a lot of tech companies, you've got pharmaceutical companies even though they're not part of the EU, in Switzerland. There are quite a few attractive little businesses, more so than the UK. So
and David, I see a comment today that the ANC will work with anyone who gets into power.
He's talking Trump or Kamala.
Yeah.
I promise you, Mr. Ramaphosa, bless him, is if Trump's in power, I don't think the door's going to be open to him. I think he's going to have to bang hard to open the door, simply because of the friends that he's chosen. And there's one thing, Bryan, Americans don't like enemies of the state. They don't like you. They don't want to welcome anybody who cozies up to Iran or cozies up to Russia or cozies up to, those states. And we make it very blatant, who we like. So I think not choosing our friends properly.
And then, David, when you spoke about tariffs, what about the AGOA that we've got advantages about what we can export into America that doesn't have tariffs?
Well, if you say that Trump can fire anybody, the Fed, I promise you he can turn over AGOA or make it very uncomfortable. I don't understand it fully. I know for the meantime things will continue, but these are issues that will be looked at. Trump will look at everything, and as I say, they're aware. If you drive in a taxi, the one thing that people say to me when I'm in New York in a taxi or something, they'll say, "Where are you from?" I say, "South Africa." "Oh, you're friends with Russia." That's the first thing. "Oh, you're friends with Russia." And it's issues like that. So it's not like we're hiding away, that they don't know who we are.
I think it's on his to-do list.
It is. It might be down at the bottom, but it is there. Yeah.
And David, let's talk about the inflation numbers.
Yeah.
Inflation numbers came out last week, 3.6, very positive. Do you think our governor should be more aggressive in reducing interest rates?
I can't argue with you on inflation because I'm an accountant rather than a monetary economist. But what I do pick up is that if we're borrowing, if businesses are borrowing at what's the overdraft rate, 11 or even higher than that,
overdraft rate 11.5.
11.5, you can't survive. You know what I mean? You cannot finance a business at those high interest rates. We need it. In fact, we need a much lower, 8 or 7. Now I'm talking from a different angle, not from an economist's point of view, but I'm looking at the economy and say, if you really want to grow an economy, you've got to borrow money. No company has got that amount of equity business, and to do so at these rates, at these high interest rates, is very, very difficult. So that's my approach to the whole thing. We've got to get rates down.
Although when you talk about interest rates, we don't have the money. If you look at all the tech companies and all of them, they are washed with money.
Incredible. I think we misunderstand how powerful they are and how much money they generate. We tend to focus on little parts of their business. Oh, the cloud didn't grow at 35%. It only grew at 34%. That's not a tragedy. If you look at the absolute results of those tech companies, they're superb and they are in very powerful positions. And Bryan, they're actually getting attractive because the growth that we've seen in profits, growth in the share price, growth in profits has outmatched growth in share price. That means that the ratings of the PE,
The multiples have come down.
Yeah. So they're going into very attractive territory regardless of what you think about AI and what you think should be spent and whether they're monetizing it and all those kind of arguments. I think they're starting to look very attractive. And
okay, so now I'm going to put a slide up, and my producers put up a slide. I'd like to talk you through the slide. I've shown the slide previously, but it talks about, are there opportunities in the South African market, and are there companies that you would even be looking at? But then when we look at the slide, this is focusing on global and local. And just to remind you, David, some time ago, you did the dark blue is all the, I think 71% of South African companies earn more than 75% of their money onshore.
Offshore, yeah. So,
is there opportunities that you're looking at, David?
You know, when I look, we need growth in the global economy. A lot of those companies that we've got, if we look at that composition of that blue pie, that blue cutout there, there's processed Naspers, which is Tencent. China's not doing well. Tencent's coming up as well, but China is a big worry in the global economy. You've got to consider that. You know, people are not spending, they're nervous. That to an extent applies to luxury as well. We've also got British American Tobacco. You know, do people smoke? Yeah, those steady results. They're very good results if you're looking for cash flow, but it's not a growth company. In fact, it's a company people don't want. You look at AB InBev, their numbers were out, volumes are going down. You know, in fact, if you look at a chart of AB InBev, it goes from top left to bottom right. You haven't made money there. There are a lot of banks there. Our banks are doing okay. Sorry, this is on the foreign side. The other side is the mining businesses and the BHPs, the Glencores, and so on. We need China. We need China to grow, and we need global growth. So, from my point of view, not great. You know, and platinum companies as well. There's stop-start all the time there with platinum. With gold's been the winner, you know, for other reasons. I think central bankers are buying, but I can't get enthusiastic about any of those businesses. If anything, I think probably some of the smaller, medium-cap companies here show better value in that, but they're not in that big blue chunk.
Okay, well, let's take a break. We'll be back shortly. Stay tuned.